Alright. This one's just going to be really fast, back points without a bunch of pauses in between because I received some complaints that I'm taking too long to disseminate information. So, it goes like this. Rome never surrendered during World War II. Rome controlled both Germany, Italy, and Japan. They also secretly controlled the Nordic areas. Like the obnoxious racist white people that are former human traffickers from the age of slavery are all unified under the Roman blanket. Now, also, both Rome and Mecca have infidel constructs which allow slavery to exist. Y'all probably did not know that. The difference between a Shiite and a Sunni is very simple. Shiites acknowledge the descendants of Muhammad as their religious leader, and the Shiites do not. The Sunnis do, the Shiites do not. The Sunnis are like the feudal Vatican, except they're the feudal Meccans. The Shiites aren't. Hussein was gassing the Shiites. He was a Ba'athist Sunni installed by Mecca, aka Saudi Arabia, aka the Bin Laden oil group, aka the Bin Laden royal family. Assad is a Shiite that was gassing the Sunnis. Russia is backing Assad because they don't believe in the feudal system, because Putin was a communist USSR lieutenant of the KGB. Bet y'all didn't know that. After we fought in Iraq for 30 years to prevent a genocide, but they didn't know or care that Iraq was at war with Syria, because Syria was led by a Shiite genocider and Saddam Hussein was a Sunni genocider. Osama bin Laden was special forces for Saudi Arabia that was once financed by the U.S. government to fight the USSR invasion of Afghanistan. Once the checks cleared and the CIA and the Secret Service went in and collected all the money that bin Laden spent, they put him on the terrorist list because he fought back against us. That led to 9/11. I still haven't figured out why the U.S. government, like if y'all watch that world famous, I believe, award-winning documentary on 9/11, you'll find out the U.S. government shut down the airspace. We don't know why this happened, but we speculate it was an infiltration between Mecca, i.e. the Bin Laden oil group, because the Bin Laden family got flown out directly after the 9/11 attack occurred. The airplane that was heading for the White House got shot down. But they didn't shoot down the Bin Laden people. They were just basically special forces. Logistical support for the Bin Laden attack or aka the Bin Laden oil group, aka Mecca, aka the Sunni attack on America. So there's the religious stuff behind that. Now keep in mind the Vatican and Mecca both have formal infidel structures for anybody that goes against them. So the Shiites are against the formal feudal system of Bin Laden oil group, Saudi Arabia, Mecca. Now Rome and Constantinople were, like, a lot of people don't realize the Roman Empire went all the way to Russia. And, like, you know, all that area. That was all Rome, but Rome divided itself. Now, when the feudal system got collapsed in Russia and the Central European states between Russia and the Western Europeans, essentially the Eastern Europeans, when all those feudal states collapsed, communism took over because it was a one-party democracy. Many U.S. governments, or not U.S. government, many U.S. presidents have warned against a two-party system because they perceived it before the explanation of like Marxist communism and Stalinistic communism and all that communism stuff. They warned against a two-party system because one option is not really a choice. Now, both Mecca and Rome are playing parts in American politics, and both of those constructs are like DC, except they're not democratic. I mean, to a certain extent, they're not democratic. They're still feudal dictatorships, Mecca and Rome are. Keep in mind, those rulers staying in power predicated on relation to Peter and relation to Muhammad, respectively. So, during World War II, both Rome, Mecca, Germany, Italy, basically the Hitlers, the Mussolinis, the popes, and the descendants of Muhammad were all unified in an attempt to exterminate anything that they perceived as less than human, which was basically anti-Semitic anti-Jewish propaganda disseminated by a Darwinistic philosophy of existence, and they also thought science disproved that the Torah happened, but the Torah has since been proven as a historical document, almost every passage in it. Like 3 of the major continents of the world have salt lakes on them. Like, you don't get salt lakes on land unless there is a flood. A flood would also cause a massive ice age because the water absorbs a whole bunch of heat, and the only way the oceans would recede is if it became ice, and it would happen very fast. So that's your explanation for the flood happening. All right. Now, we have the fact that Confederates were cannibals and fighting for the right to eat slaves because slaves weren't considered human. Britain's Magna Carta didn't apply to any of the colonies all over the world. That means India, Hong Kong, all their islands, and African colonies. And, like, the Magna Carta existed, but the British were still slave traders in the colonies, and they still allowed slavery in the colonies. That's why we had slavery in colonial pre-United States of America. Keep in mind, like the thing that makes paganism so evil, or occultism or New Ageism so evil, is that it all leads to hell. Like, for instance, Scientology, when you get up at the higher ranks, you sell your soul to one of your superiors. It's like a pyramid scheme, and then you find out that you got to sell your soul with a 1,000,000-year contract. That's the secret to Scientology. Like, when you get up high enough, it claims your soul. Just like Masonry. Like, they put you into Masonry, make you violate all the commandments, and then teach you that the Jews were right, because it's like a cruel joke. That's why their highest rank is Pharaoh. That's what a 33rd is. That's like the highest rank in that. But then you go to the Scottish Rite and figure out that it's a whole bunch of weird stuff. Bunch of stolen Jewish prayer tools is what they are. If you take like Egyptian history, you find out their religion is pretty much just voodoo. Like a picture on the wall, primitive voodoo system, where the pharaoh, like, is a suicide cult. Like, all the people that follow the pharaoh commit suicide, hop a ride on a boat to hell, because their religion is pagan. But, I mean, Egypt was one of the descendants' names, or one of the descendants of Noah's names. Like, you won't find that in most Bibles, but like if you read the Torah, the word Egypt pops up. Like, Egypt doesn't predate the Jewish faith, like, neither does Babylon. Like, while the Babylonians were praying to Baal, the pagan bull idol, which predicated on beating people up by hiring somebody stronger than yourself because you don't want to get hurt in a fight. Like, that's what ballin is about. Ballin. Ballin. Like if you hire a ball to beat somebody up, you're basically just hiring a slave trading hitman to murder somebody. Like, that's what ballin is. Like, it's like while they were all doing that shit, fighting each other and, you know, building the fucking tower, and the Jews built the Hanging Gardens because, like, all these cultures are slavery, right? And they all use somebody like the Jews to build things that they couldn't do themselves. They could draw pictures, but they didn't have the know-how to make their own shit. This is where Jews come into play. Like, we're smart. They think we're weak. We're not. But, you know, we get suckered into, like, or, you know, somebody conquers us because we piss off God, and then we got to go pay a penance being slaves or servants elsewhere. And then they're trying to do the same thing with Protestants these days. Like, y'all look at it and y'all don't understand the dynamics. But, like, most of the people in jail in urban environments are Protestants because the cops are all Catholic, the judges are all Catholic, and the fucking prosecutors are all Catholic. They're invading this country. Like, so while the Jews were in Babylon, we were doing things like writing down Jewish law arguments called a Talmud. Like, the biggest book in history for, like, let's see, the biggest book in history for a couple thousand years was the Babylonian Talmud. Like, weird, right? Check this out. Did you know that Europe was almost conquered by the Mongols? They were a democratic freedom of religion, like, group of people. Like, the only reason the Mongols didn't conquer all of Europe is one of their leaders died and they had to go back and have an election. Like, Europe was, like, literally, I don't know, like a 300-mile march away from being destroyed by the Mongols. Like the Jews, the Hebrew culture, were democratic until Saul came along and the people, like, begged Saul to appoint a king, and Saul was like, you know, the priest of earth. Like, if somebody claims to be a, like, priest and they're not Jewish, they're not really a priest. They're like a pagan idolater that is only trying to damn your soul. Like, only that, like, if somebody says they're a priest, there's one priest on the entire planet. Serious. None of y'all are it. Just, I'm being serious. I'm not it. Y'all ain't it. Serious. Like, there's a lot of things y'all don't know about history. It's fucked up. Did you know, like, the only reason Alexander's army, like, his line was undefeated in battle. Alexander never lost a battle. You know why Alexander, like, everybody thinks Alexander died? Like, he didn't die. Like, his soldiers, like, insurrected on his ass, and they went home. The United States was probably the Allegiance Fields. I'm sorry, Allegia. The Allegiance Fields. Like, the system in America is bananas. Like, We're sitting here like building suburbia on the like one of maybe two bread baskets in the entire world. Like there's one in China, there's one in the United States, there might be one in the USSR. Excuse me. Like they're building they're paving over Elysia. I'm just saying, like that. Did you know that Alexander was like monotheistic? That's why he never lost. Like they said his tutor was Plato, but like he also had Jewish tutors. Did you know Alexander had Jewish tutors? Y'all didn't know that. Jewish teachers, like rabbis and sages as teachers, as well as Plato. Do you know why Alexander was taught by Plato? He was born approximately 41 days after Socrates died. Alexander was fucking Socrates. Serious. That's why Plato taught him. Socrates was also a monotheistic person that believed that democracy should be in the hands of the educated. But considering like their education system was not even as advanced as our kindergarten. Like, serious. Anyways, after Alexander supposedly died and all those people insurrected, like when he passed out, like they think he was buried in a coffin and shit. He didn't do any of that. He just said, "Fuck y'all. I'm not gonna be your fucking king if you're not gonna fight with me. I'm a good guy. Y'all ain't even monotheistic. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fake my death and then burn down the library at Alexandria," which is exactly what happened. He went to Alexandria and he was like, "You know what? Fuck you. I'm going to burn all my fucking notebooks. I'm going to set you into the Dark Ages." You know, they didn't recover until like Da Vinci showed up, and he was a hostage to Italy. Like, people don't know that. Da Vinci wanted to fucking travel. They had his ass, like, they were working his ass like a Confederate owned slave. Like, Da Vinci didn't want to fucking make Venice. He did pretty much by himself, but like nobody gave a shit. Like they're like, what the fuck's a smart guy gonna do for us? Anyways, so like most of the world's cultures survive on one of two things: savant slavery or like child slavery. To this very day. I saw this special on TV a while back, and it was about this little kid that made a motorcycle that got like 800 miles to the gallon. One of these big conglomerates, like some oil company or some shit, was like, "We gotta bury this. It's gonna be too efficient. We can't. It's gonna make oil like too cheap." And they went in and they bought his prototype, and like their dumbasses did it on film. But this kid was like 14, 11, maybe 9 when he designed this fucking motorcycle. The kid ended up suing like 10 years later, got his prototype back. Turns out the kid got bought out by the freaking conglomerates, even though he won his fucking case. He was going to like save the world. We could have been having like 900-mile vehicles per gallon. Like we... Like you know why Elon Musk uses batteries in his electric cars? Because there's no profit in perpetual energy vehicles, man. Serious, like Elon Musk is heavily invested in the lithium market. Like what they don't tell you about those particular vehicles and shit. Is that you have to replace the battery after they fucking wear out. Not a single one of those batteries is going to last more than 10 years, bro. The battery costs the price of the fucking vehicle. Like, look this up. Like, if I started an electrical car company, man, like, I would just make it perpetual energy and like have like a butane starter. I would like flick my Bic or my MK or whatever fucking lighter I had, flick my thing, start my pilot light, and then kick my perpetual energy. Like, and I could do this. Like, but they don't give a shit. Like, I got a doctor in fucking engineering. They're not gonna let me do shit. They keep me in a fucking box. Like, there's so many goddamn things that are fucked up about history. Like, did you know Kung Fu? Kung Fu was handed down by an angel to women to protect themselves. Did you know that? Seriously. Kung Fu is a martial art that was taught women by an angel. Like, if you look up the creation myth of Kung Fu, the woman was like walking through the forest and she met an angel, like a real angel. And the angel's like, all right, here's how you fuck dudes trying to rape you up. Destroy them. That's how you destroy rapists. Do you want to know why China has a population so high? Because most of their grandmas could fuck you up. My definition of fuck is different, y'all. Y'all think it's a sexual thing. To me, it means tobacco ash. It means, like, when I say something fucks you up, it can reduce you to tobacco ash. Cheat is real. Like, we need to have like 40 yard by 40 yard or 50 yard by 50 yard by 50 yard squares that we fight in, so we can acknowledge cheat. Make it like, this joke is so fucked up, but like, think about this. MMA is essentially two dudes fighting in a dog cage with like British sponsorships, bro. Like UFC, sponsored by Reebok. You know what Reebok is? It is the official athletic gear of Britain. Like, British people watch that shit and they're like, they're breeding foxhounds. Sherlock throwback, check it out. Like, most of what y'all know just isn't true. Like, most of what you're taught in history is incomplete. Like, they give you a shiny, happy outlook on everything, and they might tell you that biological warfare was used against the Indians, like, around the time of the Civil War or some shit. And they'll blame the cavalry. What they won't tell you is those blankets came from, like, fucking Romans, dude. Like, alright, check this out. The following places were fire pits. There was one, there was a trans pit. There was one in France. Berlin at one point in time was a vampire pit. There's a place between Rome's essentially a vampire pit. The place between the Roman harbor and like Rome the city. Like, think about it. Like, where do sailors, foreign sailors and soldiers always hang out? Red light district. Like, there's an entire vampire pit over there in Rome between their harbor and Rome Formal that is just it is the nastiest, like, prostitution vampire pit that ever existed. It's like the perfect job for a female vampire. I'm not applying to be a pimp, but like, they're there. Be aware of that. Like, and Kansas, I think Kansas City, like, I'm not saying Muslims are vampires. I'm just saying Mecca might be a vampire pit. Like, think about how evil Osama bin Laden was. He's up there with Hitler and Mussolini and, like, you know, Japanese Zero pilots. Like, they're freaking everywhere, dude. Like, or they were during World War II. There was 72 million worldwide. Like, during World War II, the world's population was like, I don't know. It was some ridiculous number, like 1 out of 8, 1 out of 9, 1 out of 11 or 12 people were vampires on this planet. Now there's like almost 8 billion humans. And the vampire number is really low, but most of them are within a 300-mile radius of 300-mile radius of Kansas City proper. They have infiltrated our government, like their cops, their sheriffs, their like judges, government employees. Like Kansas City is literally like over 1,000-year-old vampire pit. Like people want to know where the Mayans went and shit, and the Incas and the Aztecs. Like those were all cannibalistic cultures. Like if your culture eats the hearts of human beings and human sacrifice, you're probably fucking vampires. Like any type of weird blood cult type shit. Like Rome's a weird blood cult predicated on forgiveness. Like they're delusional. They're sociopathic vampires. Those little wafers actually have like people in them. The holy water has people's blood in it. Like they're fucking demons, bro. Like all this blood cult shit. Like this shit is evil. Like people don't about the Mongols. They conquered like the Middle East, bro. Everywhere in the Middle East. I mean, when I say they almost conquered Europe, they conquered Eastern Europe. Like they stopped somewhere like around Yugoslavia. Like they conquered like North Africa. They conquered Asia. They conquered Russia. They conquered fucking China. The Mongols, like the Mongol Empire was like literally twice the size of the Roman Empire. Like the formal Roman Empire. Not like the colonial Roman Empire, but like the classic Roman Empire was like half the size of the Mongol Empire. Like people don't want to acknowledge that because they think the word Mongol means like retard or something. The Mongols were like the best cavalry that ever existed. Like, well, I gotta say the United States cavalry is probably the best that ever existed. But I mean, the Mongols, they were tough, dude. Like, see what else? Empires were. Oh, concerning the apocalypse. Revelation 15:1. Within the next 5 years, we're gonna be, I think, up to plague 4 in Revelation 15:1. Here's how you know they will be holy plagues. They will not have existed on earth before, and the world will be simultaneously infected. And I'm talking like the innocent may not be infected, but they'll be immune. And when I say the innocent, I mean like adhering to the Ten Commandments, nice people. You know what I'm saying? Like